Brandon Sanderson, I love you. I want to say this. If you've seen our channel in the past, you all know that I had this on ready. Oathbringer was my favorite book of all time. And I love this for so many reasons. It will always, it's a phenomenal book. That doesn't change a thing. But as far as the rating scale goes, and when we get into what my favorite book is, Golden Son took the cake. Golden Son is my new favorite book of all time.
Welcome everyone to the Ramble podcast, episode 68. My name is Richard, and this is Austin. Today we're talking about Golden Son by Pierce Brown. Today is your all lucky day, because I actually get to be positive about today's episode. I don't get to be a negative Nancy today, because I really loved this book. This is a fantastic book, and I'm looking forward to talking about it.
Richard, we're about to have the best day ever. SpongeBob, it's too many memes from SpongeBob. We are talking Golden Son. I am so happy that you love this book like I love this book. I don't know if you are a psychopath like me. So if you guys saw our Red Rising episode, you saw I really loved Red Rising. Yeah, I love Red Rising.
I think you love Red Rising more than Pierce Brown loves Red Rising.
That's okay. It's a relationship I'm okay with.
Positive. Here's the thing. If I do get the chance to ask him, which maybe we will, he'll be actually coming to Politics and Prose. What is the date exactly?
We're going to be seeing Pierce Brown July 28th, 7 p.m. at Politics and Prose. We will be seeing Pierce Brown and hopefully talking to him and whatnot. But
maybe so.
We will be there, and it's in Washington, D.C.
If any of you guys want to meet us there, we'll be there. So
I must say this, Richard. We're going to talk about this book. This will be spoiler-free on Golden Son for the first 5 to 10 minutes, and we'll get right into spoilers. We will be spoiling Red Rising, though, in that spoiler-free review. We'll assume that you read the first book, because this is book 2 of the Red Rising saga.
And I will keep my I'll keep my trap shut about the third book. I will reserve myself.
Yes, and once again, guess who we have here as a special guest? We have the one and only.
The best.
The best. Kyle. How you doing, Kyle?
Hello, gentlemen. It's Kyle Derrick. Thanks for having me back. Let's read some more Red Rising, shall we?
So we have Kyle, and that beautiful voice is going to be... I sent him way too many lines. I sent him... He is working his ass off to get us these lines. So thank you, Kyle.
Man. Talk about a man that makes you feel self-conscious.
Man,
think about you're going through all these editing things and you got to listen to our voices all the time. Can you imagine how much nicer it'd be with the editing process if our voices sound anything like Kyle's?
Just like butter. It's just so butter smooth.
Oh God, I'd imagine you would enjoy the editing process rather than like
disdaining.
Yeah, just like grinding gears in your ears. You know,
it's what it usually is.
Yeah,
but I gotta say this: opening rant. We're gonna give you a spoiler free, and we're gonna say our rating. One thing I gotta do: I created a new law. Austin's new law of books. Austin's new law of what he enjoys. Mm-hmm. And this is what it does. It's the not the trifecta, but the 4 laws of Austin.
Share.
Golden Son, this book made me cry. It made me laugh. It made me look at something from a new perspective. And it made me... I had to look for the 4th law because it's a new law that I made. But I was also deeply invested in the story. But that's the Austin 4 laws. I laughed, I cried, I was deeply invested, and I learned something new from a new perspective. That is storytelling at its finest. Pierce Brown to me could snap his fingers and I don't know what I'd do. I'd just say, here, take my money. Just let me buy all your Darrow stuff. He has a Kickstarter. I'll promote it. It's going to be in the description. Buy his books. Pierce Brown's a master. Brandon Sanderson, I love you. I want to say this. If you've seen our channel in the past, you all know that I had this on ready. Oathbringer was my favorite book of all time. And I could still say it is my favorite fantasy book of all time. I think it has the best character arc. It has something I can always think back to. And I love this for so many reasons. It will always, it's a phenomenal book. That doesn't change a thing. But as far as the rating scale goes, and when we get into what my favorite book is, Golden Son took the cake. Golden Son is my new favorite book of all time. I can stamp that approval. It is Austin approved. Richard, I know you don't like it as much as I do. You love the book.
I do love the book.
But are you ready to gush about this thing?
Thing is, I actually am ready to gush. I'm tired of being a negative Nancy.
Yes.
However, when I say my rating, you're gonna feel insulted, and yet I'm ready to get high. I'm just waiting for it.
You're just waiting for it.
Yeah,
Okay.
I'm waiting for you to be angry at me.
All right. Well, here's the thing. Do you want to get into a spoiler-free review?
Yeah.
So, assuming that you read Red Rising, this book leaves off right where Red Rising ended, where actually there's a year gap, not right where it left off, but we just saw Darrow is now an Augustus. He's with Augustus, and it ends on a real high note at the end of book 1. We just saw him win in the Institute, and now he's under Augustus, and it starts right from there. And the very first chapter, it's action-packed, and I could say for this book as a spoiler-free, and tell me if you agree with this, Rich, but the stakes are increased.
Yeah.
There are more twists and turns. There is more political intrigue.
This book is everything that I was promised in the first book. My biggest problem is when I was going into Red Rising, I felt like I was promised a certain type of story, and I was given Hunger Games, and that was my impression. And then Golden Sun, I was given everything I was promised in the first book, and I loved it. So this is far more akin to your Ender's Game type deal.
Whereas book 1 was your Hunger Games.
Yes.
This one is more this is more space opera. This is, you get more, spoiler free, space battles, but everything is, it takes the narrow scope of the previous book, where the previous book is narrow. It happens mostly in this institute, and the battles are more medieval. So now this book ups the stakes where it's a wide scope. There are a lot of moving
There's
parts.
space battles.
Yes.
There's more sci-fi stuff in here.
There's sci-fi stuff. And like I said in my 4 laws of Austen's loving of things, this book is both completely enraptures you. The pacing is incredible. It is addictive. It's adrenaline filled. It's just it's a high. The entire book is a high. And with that being said, there are genuine moments in this book where I couldn't help but cry. That if it hits all those notes, a book hits literally all those notes. I am happy. I am thrilled. I'm loving it. And then I'm crying and I'm crying. And then there's a plot twist where I'm like, no, how? This book is that good. This book is that good.
Man, the inner urge to just disagree with you is so strong.
Please don't hurt my feelings. I can only take Red Rising so much.
Here's the thing. And, just to tell everyone else, I read this book about a year ago. So my energy is not as high. I'm going off my memory of how I felt a year ago on the book.
Yeah.
So that's why my energy is going to be mixed well. But
Yep.
I'm assuming, hey, you've read the first book, you're going to read the second book, so you're on through. I think we should get right into the ratings and go right into
Spoiler-free rating?
Yeah.
Okay, what was your spoiler-free rating out of 10?
Oh, my phone turned off.
That's okay.
An 8.2 out of 10. I love this book.
I don't know what sound that was that I just made, but it wasn't happiness.
An 8.2. That's a fantastic book.
It's a great score. Now, here's what I
don't give many 8.2s.
You don't. And I have never given this rating to a book ever in my life. I give Golden Sun a perfect 10 out of 10. I think this is perfection reincarnate. And I will tell you one thing. When I first did the rating system with this, Rich, you know what it came out to? It came up to a high 9 when I first did the rating of this. And I loved the book extraordinarily.
Yeah.
And then you know what I did? I was plotting out the book to prep for this episode. I put all the plot points down. I wrote all my notes because while I'm reading the book, I'll write notes. I put all that in there. This is still spoiler free, by the way. Put all that in there. I took a shower. And I was like, man, these 2 things really bugged me about this book. These 2 things really bugged me. Like, not really, really enough to bring me down from a 10 to a 9.7, whatever I had it at, right? Okay. So these 2 things bugged me. I was taking a shower, and I was looking at the wall, as you do. Not my reflection. My reflection scares me. But I was looking at the wall, and I said, wait a second. Pierce Brown, you tricked me. Like, the thing that I thought was a flaw made it beautiful. And I respected it more. It's like, it was right, the message was right in front of me the whole time.
You got to explain what these 2 points are.
I will. But the first point, the one that was really bringing me back, there was one point about it, which we'll get into the spoilers. And I went through it in my head and went, oh my God, that's the message of the story. And then I was floored because, where Red Rising is entertainment. And where Red Rising is a book about, it's big entertainment. And also I love that it shows how to be a leader, getting over his rashes. So there's a message there. Stories have messages. This one, the one thing that was sticking in my head was, it's a great enthralling story. Loved it. Like, what's the message too? And it's so important. And I will be, everybody I ever meet is going to be like, oh, there's the Austin kid, the one that talks about that book, Golden Sun again. Oh, that's my new personality. I'm sorry. I have to say this. Morning Star I did not read yet. I held off on that on the third book. Once I do, and I can't imagine that I'm not going to like Morning Sun just based on Pierce Brown's. I've never trusted anyone more in my life in finishing a story other than Brandon Sanderson. This is going to be just my new favorite series. I'm in love. And Rich, we're going to get into spoilers and everything. Anything you want to say in spoiler free? Clearly, I'm sorry.
No,
I'm talking way too much.
We are holding off too long.
Yeah.
But at this point, you've already read the book. I don't think we need a spoiler warning anymore. Let's just go into it.
Going into spoilers, that's your warning. Rich, we'll get into our categories like usual. Yeah. This will frame the conversation. Emotional impact.
I got an 8.75.
Can you guess what mine was?
10.
No.
Yeah, you gave it a perfect
10. It was a 10. Say it with a clear voice. Don't you ever mock that 10. This is so good. I love this. And so why did 8? So I'm going to do my best here. Here's the thing about being a podcast for a while, just some insight is I've realized, you watch your stuff over and over again, and there's some episodes where you take leads, some where I take leads. I'm going to do my damn best, my bloody damn best to put my hands in my lap and let you say your piece. If I intrude, you let me know.
This is all yours, buddy.
No. I
need Hyperion episode, that's me. Small gods, that's all me.
I love this book, man.
Those are my things. This is yours.
I love it.
You're totally welcome to have it. Also, I'm going off of a memory of over 8 years right now, yes. So you're going to have to help me.
During the plot section of this, I can break it down, it'll be great. So emotionally, what do you remember from that year ago? What did you feel?
Overall, I remember the biggest improvement for me is I was far more emotionally invested in the characters. Like, I liked the characters more. The character interactions were just better for me. The surprising moments hit far better. I was far more floored. Of course, the ending twist of being caught. Like, oh my God, that was a banger ending. And a great way to do the Empire Strikes Back type of ending. So, perfect. I loved all that. So, it was such a step up from Red Rising that I had to give it that extra point.
Phenomenal. You just love the book.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Great.
No complaint there?
No.
Just like you're comparing it, hey, I like this book better, so you give it a high 8.
Basically. Okay. I was going through and, if I go through other things like my emotional impact, did the heights of Wheel of Time for me, the whole series. Like, there's certain books where I was just more emotionally invested in the whole thing. So, like, both characters, plot moments, all these things culminate together where I was just, that's a higher score. And to be fair, it's not a really fair test because those characters I've been with longer, and when stuff happens to them, I'm more emotionally invested. Right. Where this book, 2 books.
I think we also rate differently there too, because I put that as part of my thinking of a book. So, I'll judge a shorter book different than a longer book typically. If a book's 100 pages versus a Stormlight's 1,000 pages, it's what they do with those pages more so. Where you and justified as well. So if you're on a Wheel of Time book 12 and it's just amazing, and how do you not give that lower or high?
Yeah, because sometimes there are long series where I don't care. I don't care about the characters, and so I'm rating it poorly. Yes. And in many ways, I am rating it even a bit more like you had all this page count and you didn't do it. So
you do put that in
to a little bit degree, but
not as much
just
as me,
on
maybe.
Pure what did I feel?
Yeah,
I didn't feel the highs as when I felt in Wheel of Time or Lord of the Rings.
Okay, I'm just you love the book.
I'm darn close.
Okay,
that's an 8.75. I don't rate those very much. I don't put those that high. So, hey, it's a good score.
Amazing. And my emotional impact, I think I let that loose earlier in the episode. But seriously, when I go over the things that make me love any film, any book ever, Like, what are my favorites? Lord of the Rings, of course. What are my favorite? I love Interstellar's a great movie. Why is that? Because something that I'm deeply intrigued by. Like, I can't keep my eyes off it. I can't stop reading it. Also makes me cry when I'm watching it or when I'm reading it. It teaches me something. It just all those things, crying, laughing. That's the other thing. I'm laughing, I'm crying, I'm enjoying it all. Brings all those emotions in one package. That's why I love Everything Overall at Once. That movie hits all of those notes for me. This is one of those unique books where it hits every single note and does everything I want it to, where it is adrenaline rushed. The pacing is excruciatingly fast and amazing. The plot points in this, it feels like so much happens in this book because it does. And I've seen way longer books. It is incredible how much is done in this.
What is your highest?
Oh my goodness.
Like, what is the moment in the book that got the highest emotional reaction out of you?
I will say two, because one was the height of adrenaline, and one was the height of crying. The height of adrenaline was, actually, there were so many moments, but was the beginning with the gala scene. And Darrow walking in there, politics, screw you, I'm stomping on the bolognas, stomping on plates, I am challenging you, Cassius. And guess what? Guess who trained me? And you know what? Oh, you know how much I love this scene? I'm going to say the other scene I love. But we had Kyle. I had Kyle read off this portion of the scene. This is the fight of Darrow versus Cassius. And it picks up right where Cassius is winning.
Yeah.
He thinks. And here's where it picks up, okay? Listen to this, everybody. Kyle, take it away.
Do you hear that? He asks. I hear nothing but the wind and the throbbing of my heart. That is the sound of dying alone. No one to weep, no one to care. Akros will care, I whisper. He stiffens. What did you say? Lorno Akros will care if his last student dies, I say, dropping the falsely ragged breath, straightening proudly. Cassius stares at me as if he's seen a ghost. He hesitates. So too do those who hear what I say. While you ate, I trained. While you drank, I trained. While you sought pleasure, I trained from the weeks after the Institute to the days before the Academy. Lorno Akros doesn't accept students, Cassius hisses. Not for 30 years. He made an exception. Liar. Oh? I laugh. Did you think I came here to be killed? Did you think yourself entitled to my life? No, Cassius. I came here to cut you down before your parents.
Oh, so good. It's so good. And that's not even the full context of before and after. That's so badass as well. I could only force Kyle to read so much, okay? That's the most I felt comfortable with, because before that, you have him smashing the plates, saying, screw you, getting the Civil War to start. It's such an adrenaline pump scene. And then even when Octavia, the sovereign, comes to stop and says, no, and it's clearly unfair. And finally, it was her mistake of her coming in and stopping this fight to keep Cassius alive. She does this. And Darrow anyways goes, he is mine. And still chops off Cassius's arm. Bam! When I tell you I had in my notes for this, all my notes had for this was, yes! Sorry if I'm screaming if this is too loud, but we have the thing so it doesn't sound too loud in the mic. But it's
I don't know how much technology could help you.
I don't know, but my notes when reading this scene, I just to remember on were, what? Yes! Just panic notes in my notepad. I loved it. So that was my highest adrenaline moment, all right?
Yeah.
Now to juxtapose that with the highest sad moment. And I also had Kyle read this.
Okay.
This to me, like every time I've read it so far, I'll see if I don't want to compose myself, but since it might be different from a camera, I don't know how I'll react, but this is the mother scene. When he went back home, and the beautiful thing about this, we're going to have Kyle read it, but this is the scene where he goes back to Lycos, and he sees his old feral mother, and she looks at him in the eyes, his golden eyes, he doesn't look the same at all, and she still recognizes her boy. Yeah. I'm going to play it from Kyle. This book is freaking perfection. I can't get over it. Okay, here's the scene where he's coming to see his mother for the first time in 4 years.
I have to duck to enter. The home is cramped, quiet. The first floor is the same as I remember. The small metal table has not changed, nor have the plastic chairs, the small sink, the drying clay dishes, or Mother's prized tea kettle that heats on the stove. A new rug covers the floor. It's the work of a novice. Different boots sit where Father used to place his at the base of the stairs, where I used to set mine. Wait, those are mine, but tattered and worn more than they'd been in my day. Are my feet really so small? Silence guards the house. All sleep except her. The tea kettle hisses as the water reaches a boil. Soon it begins its breathy murmur. Feet scrape over the stone stairs. I almost run out of the room, but terror roots me to the spot as she comes closer. Closer, till she's in the room with me. Pausing at the last stair, foot suspended, forgotten. Her eyes find mine. They never leave. Never look at the rest of my golden form. I panic as she says nothing. A breath. 3, 10. She doesn't know me. I'm a killer in her house. I shouldn't have come here. She doesn't recognize me. I'm a lost gold poking his head in out of curiosity. I can leave. Run away now. My mother never has to know what her son has become. Then she finishes her step and comes toward me, gliding. It's been 4 years. She looks 20 older. Lips thin, loose and webbed with lines, hair worked through with sooty gray, hands tough as oak and gnarled as ginger roots. When her right hand reaches for my face, I have to kneel. Her eyes still have not left mine. Now they let out tears. The tea kettle screams on the stove. She brings her other hand to my face, but it is unable to open and touch like the other. It remains twisted and clenched, like my heart. It's you, she says softly, as though I will disappear like a night vision if she says the word too loudly. It's you. Her voice is different, slurred. You know me, I managed desperately. How could I not? Her smile is twisted. Left eyelid sluggish. Life has been less kind to her than to me. She's had a stroke. It breaks me to see her body fail her. To know I wasn't here for her. To know her heart was broken. I would know you anywhere. She kisses my forehead. My boy, you're my Darrow. The tears leave warm paths down my cheeks. I let them linger. Mother.
I mean, damn. If that's not relatable to every son and daughter in the entire universe, and I promise you, if I'm reading or listening to this in my room alone, tears are pouring out of my eyes. Every single time. It's hard when there's lights on you and a camera and just this bald, creepy man staring at you. But every single time, this scene just gets me. And the thought of not seeing your mother in that long, but the only person that could ever recognize you, that unconditional love. She knows her boy Darrow. Oh.
Yeah. It was an emotional scene. I do remember that one.
It always hits, and because you could take that and put that in any scene, and it just makes so much sense, and it's written so beautifully. It's so simple, and I love it. And I will say, strangely enough, there's a second time that got me as well. So if we're just talking pure emotion, there's a second time that got me to tear up.
What was that?
It was a little less so. That was the most powerful scene. But believe it or not, when we get into characters, I want to commend every single character in this book, of course, because I gave it the 10. But such a small, minor character in this book was Victra.
I liked her.
I loved her.
I liked her quite a bit more than I thought I would.
Can you say love just once in this episode?
No.
But I loved her so much because, and we'll get more into characters, but she is that flirty, like could be homewrecker character. And you're like, this is a little sketch. But throughout the entire book stays loyal to Darrow. Mm-hmm. And so she gives off this energy of, she wants someone to watch out for. Maybe she won't betray you, but she wants you for the wrong, lustful, these kind of vices. But
mainly she's just playing with you. It's this. You clearly see some type of wall or mask that's what she's wearing.
Yes,
and so you don't know what's really deep underneath, and shows actually underneath it all is a very loyal person.
That's what you come to find out. Mm-hmm. And the most gut-wrenching thing about that was in the final scene where Victra, Lorne, Augustus, Fitchner dies. We have so much to talk about this episode. But when that happens, Victra's one thought as she's dying, her only thought is, she's crawling, bloodied. And I have it here. I can say exactly what the line is. Victra crawls toward me, blood leaking from her. Then this is later in the passage because a lot happens. And it says, Victra manages to crawl to my ankle. A slick of blood shadows her path from where she was shot to the place where she now curls. Red on her lips. I can't feel her touch. I didn't know. She whispers, Darrow, I didn't know. The last thing she has to whisper to him is just, I'm dying, but he has to know I didn't know this. I was loyal to the end. Like, it doesn't, I'm dying, I'm bleeding out, but Darrow, I didn't know. That means so much in the story. It's such a small thing, but meaningful. Like, what you do when you're dying, that's what Victra did. And it just shows her character so well. At first, she seemed like this side character flirt that was just going to be just another piece of the story to kind of make it interesting and a little it could have been a love triangle thing, could have cheapened it, where it was Mustang, Victra, Darrow. No, it became so powerful. And the emotional impact, sticking on that rather than diving into her character more, moments like that made me genuinely feel for these characters. And the adrenaline rush, so that was only one scene, the adrenaline rush of Cassius versus Darrow, not to mention where they get trapped and then he has to get out of the mud, not to mention when he has
that was an exciting
the
scene.
Intro scene where they rip their ship in half, and the escape scene where hundreds of bodies are flying out of the capsule and he has to get out, or the scene where he takes over the ship with Ragnar in it, or the entire Mars battle. Holy crap! There's so I could talk about this all day, so you're gonna have to pace me and move us on to the next category.
Yeah, we got to go to characters. Man. You've been holding us there.
Characters next. What did you give that out of 10?
I gave an 8.5.
8.5. And before I give my score,
it's a 10. It's all 10s. We get it.
No, is there anything you want to say in emotional impact before?
No,
Okay.
I don't remember a lot of these scenes nearly as much.
Okay.
When you bring it up, I
remember.
liked it. They're really good.
Yeah.
I'm not the 10 for you, but I'm still giving it like really high 8. Like I'm loving it.
Well, Rich, guess what? You have a 10 out of 10 elbow. Your elbow looks nice sometimes.
You know what? That is often my most it's my most attractive quality.
That's what people tell me.
That's what people tell me.
I met Richard. Man, that guy's got elbows. 2 of them, actually.
They tell me I got the face for radio.
Yeah. So I gave it a 10, clearly. You gave it an 8.5. Go ahead.
I thought it was a significant step up. So from the previous book of Red Rising, I had a 6.5 for characters. I give it an 8.5 because I think it was genuine, like at least 2 points above where I really liked all the other characters. Darrow, I think the relationship between Darrow and Mustang was far more interesting, and with the passage of time just made far more sense. The internal conflict with him, all that worked for me. I liked that stuff with Victra. The side characters, I think, were more interesting in their gold element, and then how much Darrow's passes of red really conflicted the whole thing. And so I enjoyed the character interactions so much more. I was way more emotionally invested in them.
Amazing.
So, yeah, that's my 2 cents on characters.
Okay. Red Rising, you know I love the characters Red Rising.
Yeah.
It's just a level up. It does everything that well, and the side characters, there's more that stand out, and I gotta say several things.
Yeah.
Okay. The one thing that I was stuck up on, and this goes in emotional impact, this goes in the character, this moved the score up from the entire book to a 10 for me. Everything was amazing. So what was the lesson learned here? And that was the question I was asking myself. The plot was so fascinating and so fast-paced, and a lot was happening. And I couldn't pinpoint it at first. Do you want to jump in on this, or do you want me to just keep going with this thought?
Before you get it,
yeah.
My initial thoughts on the message of the book was the price of loyalty. And often that a lot of people ask for loyalty, but sometimes that price is too high, and so that was my kind of thought.
That's a great message. That's definitely. I think that's definitely a message there.
Okay.
And the one that I got from it as well was, okay, let me break this down. The one thing that didn't sit right with me at the end of it was Tactus. Do you remember Tactus's character?
Remind me.
So Tactus in Red Rising, and this is why I think this is genius. I don't know if Pierce Brown intended this. I imagine he did. This is what I interpret of the book and why it means so much to me. Okay, so Tactus in book 1 was the character that tried to rape Nyla, and then that's where Darrow whipped himself to teach Tactus, to show leadership.
Okay.
Right, so that's that character. Then in this book, what Tactus does is he's part of the group, but he, remember, takes the grandson when they're using him. He's the only reason they're able to survive because they escape from Luna, and they're in the ship, but they have Mustang got the grandson with the Howlers and Darrow, and so that's why they're not getting shot down. And then Tactus takes the grandson, jets out.
Yeah.
Do you remember that scene? So so you remember all that. Tactus was a bad guy.
Yeah.
He's a real bad guy. And then what ends up happening is I believe they're on Europa. And that's where Tactus is there again, and he's about to kill Lorne's kids, his grandkids. Mm-hmm. And what we see is Darrow talking to Tactus out of it, talks Tactus out of it. Lorne kills him anyways. Right? Do you remember this?
Yeah.
Okay. So then that's what happens. And I looked at it, and Darrow later in the conversation says about the killing of Tactus, like that wasn't right. Like Tactus, like I failed Tactus, which to take that responsibility, I see what Darrow's doing. That's great, but I failed Tactus, and I think he was redeemable. That kind of thing. Whereas Lorne was taking the stance of, I've seen this happen before.
He threatened my kids. I'm not giving him a second chance.
As a reader, I'm looking at Tactus going, he's tried to rape a woman. He tried to kill everybody by taking the grandson out. Completely betrayed everybody. So when Darrow was thinking like, man, we should have kept him, I could have changed him, I couldn't connect with the redeemability. Because my favorite trope is redeeming characters. Mm-hmm. And Tactus to me was like, man, I couldn't get behind him being redeemed. I couldn't get behind it. Here's the genius of it by Pierce Brown. Here's what I'm reading into it. Mm-hmm. So later in the book, Lorne says to Darrow, you know what? I think you were right. I shouldn't have killed him. Do you remember this in the book? You'll have to
vaguely, not
so
really.
Lorne says to Darrow, like, what Homer wrote Achilles as a warning. That was his logic in going. I think I was too rash. Or what Lorne agrees with Darrow's message of he was redeemable. And I was like, I don't know. Tactus wasn't that redeemable. And here's the genius of it. What's the last scene of the entire book? Lorne is dead. All of his grandchildren are dead. By the Jackal, the most irredeemable character I've ever met. I think the message, this is how I'm taking the message of the story, and whether it's true or not, this is what I got out of this book. Tactus's entire point between Darrow and Lorne was right. Some people are irredeemable. And I love redemption stories so much. There is a line, and that line was crossed. And you think Darrow's the right one. Like, hey, Tactus had a chance. You think Darrow's right in the first perspective of reading the book, or intended to be. And Lorne even agrees. Hey, you were right, Darrow. That's the message. You were right, Darrow. And then the last chapter of the book completely flips that and shows, wait a second. Lorne was right. Lorne's dead because Lorne's dead because of it. There is not because Tactus killed him
not
or anything.
Tactus,
but it wasn't Tactus, but another irredeemable character, the Jackal. Tactus is a warning for someone like the Jackal. Loyalty only goes so far. And I thought about that and went, oh my God. Because with a lot of stories have this redeemable character, and sometimes they redeem themselves or they die right before they can get redeemed. I haven't read a book like that where the message is just there are redeemable evil people. And there are messages in other stories like that, but not in this way that was so powerfully shown where the message, you agree with the message, then it flips the message again. I haven't seen it done that way. The flip, and I was mind blown thinking in the shower, wow, I got something so good out of this book, because now every time I look at Richie and you ask me something like, hey, Austin, I need help me, whatever. And I can go, Richard, you are irredeemable. I learned
you have a line, and I've crossed it too many times.
Lorne taught me to not trust you, but that's one huge message I got from the book. That's what the characters show. That's what Tactus, Lorne, and Lorne being the retired badass. That's your favorite character moment, right? The retired badass. Lorne was amazing as well. What do you think about that? And what are your thoughts on Lorne? Go on.
I liked Lorne. He's just not as memorable to me. Like, he's a retired badass, but there's just not a lot of shining moments that I really got. So I really don't remember him at all.
Wow.
I just know, like, he was like, oh yeah, this amazing master who doesn't take any students. He took me, and I'm the exception. That whole thing, it was just like thrown there, and I was like, okay, cool, badass that we haven't heard of yet. But we just didn't get a lot from him, so I don't really remember him very well.
Got it. He had a lot of that threatening presence scenes where when Pliny betrayed them, remember Pliny? Mm-hmm. And they go in, there's hundreds of the betrayers against Augustus, and Darrow and Lorne are there. Darrow's going up to Pliny, and you see people shifting, and Lorne just basically says, if anyone moves, I kill you all. And everyone just goes, okay, sitting back. It's just those little threats there from Lorne, and his philosophy. What makes him such a great character for me are the little sayings he has. Where one of the sayings, let me pull this up. It's a very long sheet I have in front of me. One of the sayings he has about the rabbit and the hare, mm-hmm. where it's, if you're a fox, play the hare. If you're the hare, play the fox. And these Latin, I think it's Latin phrases.
That's a different telling of Sun Tzu's Art of War.
Interesting, yeah.
Because the Art of War is all...
Go on that.
It's just the whole... If you're strong, pretend you're weak, and if you're weak, pretend you're strong.
Great.
That's all. The Art of War is basically your enemy needs to think the opposite of what you actually are.
Awesome. And do you want to hear more of these one-liners?
Sure.
Kyle, actually, I had him just say some of the one-liners from the book. And
I don't get Kyle for my Wheel of Time quote.
I'll send them your way.
I need some Kyle for my Wheel of Time.
Listen to these one-liners, and we'll go right back into characters, I promise, but it was just natural in the conversation. So here are some of the one-liners from the book.
And here are some one-offs for you. These are good. Liars make the best promises.
Nice. Liars. Yeah. Here's another one.
Wise men read books about history. Strong men write them.
Oh, and then listen, here's Kyle's comment on that.
Ain't that the truth?
Kyle, you're the man, Kyle. All right. Ain't that the truth? Oh, God. He sounds like Lorne. How I met. No, he sounds like Ragnar.
I wish I could get a carver to just carve my vocal cords to give me his voice.
Good world building use in the nice.
And that year-long
using
memory.
That gold brain of yours.
That gold brain.
All right, here's some more one-liners.
It's not victory that makes a man. It's his defeats.
Very true.
You meet a man, you know him. You meet a woman, she knows you.
Man, what a great line. What a great line. All right, here's some more.
A fool pulls the leaves. A brute chops the trunk. A sage digs the roots.
That was another Lorne saying, and that's what Darrow used in his battle against Cassius. He was using some of those teachings because he said if he fought how Cassius taught him, he'd be dead. But Lorne taught him this different way of fighting.
If you're a fox, play the hare. If you're a hare, play the fox. And what is the bloody damn point of surviving in this cold world if I run from the only warmth it has to offer?
That was with Mustang, that scene at the end there. So, holy crap, a lot of great one-liners, fantastic parts there, but to dive into character so we can get this as efficient as possible, which is going to be impossible. What did you think about the man himself, the Jackal?
Talk about an intimidating villain. The Jackal, even in Red Rising, had, I think, the most presence, and especially in Golden Sun, had wonderful interaction with Darrow. Like, I loved his interaction in the beginning with Darrow, where the Jackal and him are kind of like working out together. Like, they're this weird partnership, which is just strange.
You think it's the antagonists to allies trope, and it is for a bit.
Kind of. It's more of a Darrow's like, you know what, enemy of my enemy is my friend kind of deal. But
that's basically antagonist to
but you always know it's eventually going to end. Like, it's a liar.
It's like the U.S. and Soviet Union during World War II. It's like, hey, for right now,
it's
we have a common interest.
But we know where this is all going.
Yeah.
But so I love that he has a great presence, and especially the ending twist. Wonderful villain. So he's a better villain than
Nero Augustus.
No,
Octavia.
Octavia.
Yeah. So the Jackal, and this is what defines him. So in Red Rising, the great scene of him cutting his arm off. Mm-hmm. This 2 sentences. When they go back, this is toward the end of the book. This is what happens when Ragnar was, you know who Ragnar is, right? You remember Ragnar? Beast of a man. a beast of an obsidian, I should say. Like just biggest guy. I love how the font's in bold when he speaks. Intimidates everyone. This is the Jackal's narration of what Darrow says. The Jackal doesn't even look at Ragnar. Physical power bores him. Just that one character who it defines him. He is the sadistic, that psychopath that you don't know what he's always thinking. He's always scheming, and that physical power. His hands are no use to him. It's his mind and the scheming. It's such a powerful villain. Where Nero Augustus, he was threatening, and he was more. You understand his character as well. What he's doing, he wants to preserve society, and you think this is the big villain. All of a sudden, his son is just 10 times more intimidating.
Well, you think about Darrow as a character and what he brings to the table, where he is both cunning and physicality. He's strength. So he's generally like one of the best fighting golds. He can beat just almost anybody. He's taught by this great teacher. He leans on his physicality, and he's a pretty good planner and schemer, but not that good. Like often his schemes fall apart, and he has to rely on his physical strength to get him out of a scrape. And the Jackal ain't that. And so it's an interesting conundrum, because that is almost always, I think, Darrow's weakness is he always has his strength to lean back on. When something when something fails, he can fight his way out of it. Jackal never has that luxury. He always has to scheme his way out of everything. His schemes have to go right, because physically speaking, he's not fighting his way out of anything.
Book 1, he has to eat people to get out.
Yeah.
He will do anything to survive, and he'll use his power to do that, not his physical power, but his influence. That's a great point.
Yeah.
And what makes him such a juxtaposing villain,
and what
really
makes
threatening.
him really hard for Darrow to kind of wrap his head around.
Yeah, absolutely. And we have to also mention Cavax and Daxo, the Telemanuses, Pax's relatives.
Yes, they were fun.
Teleman, this is what made them fun. Just these simple lines of, my boy trusted this one, so shall I. And then later in the book, the Reaper calls. House Telemanus must answer. Yes, just best boy, best men coming to save I am with the Reaper. My son was with the Reaper. You name the ship Pax. Let's go to battle. That's all I want. Just give me more of that.
You just want this nice little hit of testosterone.
Give me that. That's it. That's all I ask. And then, of course, we have Victra, who I went in more into detail, emotional impact. But Victra, just to emphasize how amazing of a character she is, that she comes off as just this flirty, maybe a little plot conflict here, and ends up being such a, not even pivotal to the story, but pivotal to the message. Pivotal to the, so I guess it is to the story. I'm saying the same thing, but just pivotal to the message, and makes a really big, what's that saying? The teeter your totter. I had to say it once in an episode. You know it was coming at some point. I think I put it in the wrong spot just because I was trying to be aggressive with the usage of the term.
Oh, really?
But Victra's amazing. Victra is amazing. The fact that the last thing on her mind was to let Darrow know that I wasn't a part of this. Amazing. Going on to Ares / Fitchner, that reveal. Ooh. And as a character, what'd you think of him?
Well, one, I think it makes what's his name? The son.
Oh,
Severo.
Yeah.
Far more understanding on why he's so close with Darrow.
Yeah.
The connection there is, I think, really impactful.
Yep.
I don't want to spoil anything.
No.
Could you mind telling me the connection so I'm not stepping on any toes?
Father-son.
What's the reveal with specifically Severo?
Yeah, father-son.
Who's his mother?
A red.
There we go. Okay.
Yes.
I just wanted to double check here.
Making sure that was in this book, yes.
Yeah,
so
I'll make sure.
That reveal did happen where it explains Ares why he's created the Sons of Ares. And fascinating.
Why Severo's kind of really different than
Yeah.
regular golds. However, I want to get into the character that I thought was most improved, or at least I had
Can I guess?
Yeah.
Mustang?
Yeah.
Okay, go on,
I
Mustang.
loved Mustang way more.
Go on, Mustang. Yeah.
I thought, from what I remember going back, is I liked how she just made more sense and had this kind of independent drive to her. And I liked her operate. Just her with Darrow made a lot more sense to me. They worked off each other great. And the push and pull, how she was able to trick all the other people around her, and this kind of these faux relationships that she's holding just to kind of gain influence, I thought was really good and interesting. Added to the drama. I thought she worked well with Darrow, and I could see why they worked together.
Yeah, I loved her in the first book already. Love her again in the second book, and second book especially, with a couple scenes. One big scene is when he shows Mustang that he is a red. Yeah. Mustang has the natural reaction of going, Bolton. What? What? It's not a happy ending for we live happy. Yeah. What? This is just like these small things that are input where Darrow has Ragnar carry the razor at one point, where Obsidians can't do that. Where you hear Thistle, one of the other characters, is going, "What? Stop. You can't do that." So it shows it keeps the consistency of the goal. Oh, did a fly go in your?
I think. Oh God, like a bug went on my nose.
Oh, it's a sign to raise the rating of Golden Sun. It's God's telling you, raise the rating, Richard. I will send more plague and flies. Oh. But so, where was I with several? No, I was with Mustang. Yes. So Mustang and Darrow also work extremely well. Where
actually, hey, I want to give a cut.
Yeah.
Be right back. All right,
we're back. We're back here. So we were talking about Darrow and Mustang. Mm-hmm. Another scene that really works for me is the order of this is off. But when Darrow goes back home and sees his home again for the first time, he looks at how small his shoes were. He realizes, wow, like the place, the grounds where Io and I went aren't as beautiful as my memory told me. If I saw Io again, would I love her just as much? Would she be as beautiful after everything I've seen? Yeah. And for the first time, he admits internally to Io isn't perfect. Io's this memory, and she stays more perfect in memory. But if he saw her today, would she still love this little red girl that he loved 4 or 5 years ago? And so showing that he acknowledges Io's flaws as well. Like, hey, sometimes
she's going native. But it's more of the flaws I think us as readers saw. I think there's an incredibly selfish what she does and does to Darrow specifically. It's incredibly reckless and basically committing suicide to spark him to
kills her child too.
Yeah, kills her child to do. Like, I would not say that that's the emblematic of perfect person. That's some serious character flaws in there. She's more complicated. She isn't this perfect little angel.
She's extremely complicated, and why I think that's such a stunning, inciting incident in both what it does in book 1 and book 2. So book 1, Io dies. Book 2, we find out Io died and had a child with her.
I also want to say that is the one reveal that was not surprising at all. I knew that from the get-go.
Right. You get
the fact that they're like, what else could she have whispered in her sister's ear? Yeah, of course. She was pregnant. Mm-hmm. So that's the one thing that like is supposed to be this big bombshell. I was like, I knew this one.
I was talking to Dom, who's also reading the book. He saw the same thing. He's like, hey, I just finished this part. Does she have a kid? And I was like, you want me to tell you yes or no? Let me know. But I was like, yeah, that is the case. So what that does for the motivation, and Io as a character, just to think what freedom meant to her, that we were talking about in another video, character motivations. Mm-hmm. Freedom as a character motivation.
More than her child.
I've never seen someone want freedom more than Io, where she was willing to kill herself and her own child on the chance that Darrow could save the world. Jesus. And
even that, I don't even know how much of a motivator that, like, I don't know how good that plan is. Like, just kind of thinking about that, that's not a great plan. But I mean, it worked, I guess. But I don't know how you predict that. That's kind of throwing caution to the wind, like just going maybe.
Well, it's also the case of, since there's a billion Reds, to put it in the perspective of, Darrow's the protagonist. Darrow doesn't survive because he's the protagonist. He's the protagonist because he survives. Mm-hmm. It's that kind of case. This is the case where it worked, where it took Io, it took Darrow, right? And that's our story. That's the story we're following. Yeah. Or else the story's over chapter 1. But Io makes her character more present. It shows her character motivation even clearer. It solidifies that. And Mustang, we were getting into Mustang and how she's improved. I just loved how they had this back and forth, this conflict going throughout, and it didn't end on a high note. I imagine next book, I have some predictions I'll make at the end. I'll save it for then. But briefly want to mention some other characters like Aja, just very threatening. Oh, holy crap. The Sovereign. The Sovereign is just, she will do anything to win. And I love that about that villain. At all costs, she killed her own father, except for grandson.
That's the one thing.
Grandson, yes. Except
the
for,
one thing that she won't do.
Yes. So anything but kill her grandson. Caveat. So she has that weakness. Reminds me a little bit of, oh my goodness, I can't believe I can't think of her name from Game of Thrones. Joffrey and not Jamie.
Cersei.
Jamie and Cersei. Cersei Lannister.
I haven't even read the book. I know that.
Cersei Lannister, and her very similar feeling of how gripping of a villain. So you have Octavia here. You have Jackal, and I just want to mention Roke. Roke was also more powerful than the previous book, and I still loved Roke. But Roke's betrayal and how that was done in a way that, of course, Roke, I'm not going to agree with Roke, of course, but I go into the thought process and I understand all these villains.
Remind me of Roke's portrayal. Who was Roke? I don't particularly remember.
Roke the poet. So Roke is the character that was friends with, it was Roke, Cassius, and Darrow at the Institute. And then Roke also led the ships during the invasion of Mars. Okay. He was one that Darrow initially injected him before he was going to blow everyone up. And then their relationship was strained throughout the book. Darrow was trying to make it up to Roke. And then eventually Roke at the end was the one that, I think he was the one that served Fitchner's head at the end. But anyways, he betrayed with everybody else. It was the whole thing. And also, we have to mention Ragnar. Ragnar! The bold text Ragnar. Love you, Ragnar. Amazing. And then we'll get more into him in plot stuff. Lastly, want to mention Julia Albolona. Only reason I want to mention her is she's not... You see her like twice. You see the Albolona, and remember, there's a lot of antagonists. There's Jackal, there's Octavia, the Sovereign, and then you have the Bolognas. Cassius still wants Darrow dead. So there's a lot of people that hate Darrow right now, want him dead. But Julia Albolona at the beginning, this is what Darrow narrates about her. Okay, They say I'll gotta restart that. They say every night since I stole Julian's life in the passage, his mother, Julia Albolona, has sat at the long table of her family's hall upon the slopes of Olympus Mons and lifted the semicircular lid of silver tray brought to her by the pink manservants. Every night, the tray remains empty, and every night she sighs in sadness, peering down the table at her large family, only to repeat the same vindictive words. It is clear I am unloved. If I were loved, there would be a heart here to sate my hunger for vengeance. If I were loved, my boy's murderer would no longer draw breath. If I were loved, my family would honor their brother. But I am not, he is not, they do not. What have I done to deserve such a hateful family?
Let's go right into plot on that specific
Awesome.
note.
Let's do it. Okay, what do you rate plot out of 10?
It's my highest score. I give it a 9 out of 10.
High score, lovely.
I really love the plot. However,
so I gave it a 9 out of 10 as well.
Just right there.
Did you not? I said I gave it a 10.
Yeah, of course. You give the whole thing a 10 out of 10. I know all your scores are 10.
You didn't catch my subversive joke where I said I gave it a 9 out of 10 and then you're... Okay.
I didn't catch that one.
Okay, I gave it a 10.
I was in my own head.
Yeah, okay, well, go on. What were you saying?
She doesn't make as much sense there. They know that Julian's gonna die. I don't know. There's just something about where they kind of put Julian there for sacrifice.
Rich.
Like, they know going in of like, yeah, Julian's gonna die. That's why he's supposed to be there.
Rich, here's why I love you like a brother. I'll tell you right now.
Yeah?
I'll tell you right now. This is your best quality as a man.
What?
So in the book that you like,
yeah,
your highest rated category, the first thing out of your mouth. Well, it was relevant in the conversation, but
yeah, that's the thing is, it's such a thing that I don't remember it being. It's just like a weird thing. Mm-hmm. You could honestly explain it away and make it, because maybe it's in similar form to Cassius, where Cassius is like, hey, I know that you're forced in this situation. I get it, but you still killed my brother. thing is, there's a difference of he was ignorant about the whole situation going into it and feels the sense of betrayal, where I'm looking at Julian's mom, Cassius's mother, kind of set her son up to fail. Like, so that's the difference. It's a little weird.
So it's a smaller part of the book, but this did happen in either book 1 or 2. Can't remember which it was. It might have been Red Rising, but where Cassius said, either he got this information from Cassius, I believe, or someone, that their parents didn't tell Julian about the Institute. So what's her name? Yeah, Julia Albolona, the mother and father, did not tell Julian about the Institute, but they trained him with the sword as best they could. They prepped him in there and made sure that he would, because they knew he was going to be in that one-on-one. So they gave him all the training that you could possibly give him, and it wasn't enough. And so they loved their son very much, and they thought they trained him hard enough, and the person that killed him, that's why they have... So it was explained that they put so much effort into this son. They loved him so much. He's dead. So it was that portion. Now, it wasn't dived into a ton, but that was there. I do remember that 100%.
Okay, fair enough.
But you give it 9 out of 10. Why do you love it so much?
Why do I love it is efficiency. So there's not a wasted chapter in here. It is surprising. All this, other than the Io was pregnant part, everything else was really surprising and hit home. The action was just super fun.
But on that though, to have surprises, you need to have things that you can predict. That's what makes a perfect book. Is there are things that step in line that you can predict, and also other things that are plot twists.
Yes, but Io's reveal is not one of those. That was supposed to be a surprise to the audience.
Think so?
Yeah.
Okay.
It was set up very much like it's supposed to be a bombshell surprise, and it was not.
Okay, I took it as it was more of a bombshell surprise to Darrow. And
it's supposed to be a bombshell surprise for Darrow, but it was, I'm pretty sure it's supposed to be a bombshell surprise for the audience, and it was not.
Okay, regardless.
Maybe I could be wrong. Well, hey, Pierce Brown,
you could be right.
Wrong,
you could be right, but regardless, what it did to Darrow and what it led to is what was super important in that moment. But yeah, go on. Going about
the ending. The ending was so surprising. I loved all the stuff with Mustang. It's really hard for me to find a particular flaw or plot hole in the story. So, yeah,
just
I
stunning.
loved it. I absolutely loved the plot.
I had it broken down into 4 parts, and I'm not going to...
I said the L word for you. I loved the plot.
We're both in our own heads. I was just ready to go.
I'm just wanting to let you know, I loved the plot.
Kiss the book. I kissed your handprint. I love this book, man. So with the plot here, I have it broken down into the 4 parts, and we can't go into every detail, of course.
Yes.
But part 1, just to get the highlights of what makes this book so amazing. Darrow versus Karnas at the Academy, and how I was really interested because at the end of Red Rising, Darrow he was now with Augustus. Seemed like he had everything going for him. He won at the Institute. How's he going to fall? And him losing the Karnas, getting beaten both in the game and then physically by all of the members, and then losing his safety net with Augustus. Great, compelling way to show our character going down. And he's on the floor, goes to the Luna slums. This is where he talks with Jackal, talks with Sons of Ares, and it becomes a terrorist. He's going and he's going to blow up everything. And going into part 2, that's where you have the amazing gala scene, challenges Cassius, Lorne trained. Oh, we already talked about that enough. And then you have the Sovereign meeting that happens in part 2 as well, with the scorpions that tell the truth. And that was such a gripping scene to me as well. And you have the escape scene from there, where Augustus and everybody's about to die. The Howlers come. Howlers save the day. Boom! They get out, they escape, and then they go and take that ship. And that ship is where, that's where also Tactus betrays him. Tactus betrays him. Then they go on to the bigger ship, and that's where they meet Ragnar. So Ragnar's met. Part 3 happens where 2 plans are set. Darrow is to go to Europa and get... I'm just giving framing this book.
I appreciate it.
So Darrow goes to Europa to get Lorne, while Augustus, I think, is going to the Academy to get more of the Academy people on their side, going to Mars. I believe that was that half of the plan. So on Europa, what an amazing scene on Europa as well, where Lorne... Aja's already there setting a trap for Darrow, but Darrow knew this and set a trap on them. So, and freaking amazing where Darrow forces Lorne's hand. He makes him pick a side. The way you get the retired badass out of retirement is you force their hand. I forced you into this conflict. Do you think I'm the bad guy? You call your ships right now to kill me. You have to pick a side. I'm taking that risk. Man, he learned from his master. And then you have the Darrow tells Ragnar the truth bit, where it tells him about him being a red. Pliny's betrayal, and that's how Augustus gets trapped, or not gets trapped, gets taken. You have Pliny's betrayal, and you have the eventual invasion of Mars. Amazing scene there. Of course, we can go into, oh my goodness. And the battle with the tech in Red Rising, the more medieval, you have these, you're on horseback versus the battle in this, and how even Severo himself, it just, here's the line by Severo, which I loved so very much. I was wrong about war. And then goes into all this. Then Darrow asks, are you still with me, Severo? And he said, always, Darrow, always. Just Severo's best boy, always by his side.
That's your best line? It's a normal line.
Did I say best? I just love the line.
Okay, fair enough.
It's just like, I love the line.
I just...
Just,
that's like,
there's
that's
a lot
like
of lines.
That's like a character going like, I like you. I like you, man. You're great. Yeah. And I was like, okay. That's not like, I don't know. I'm just like, you're saying like, oh, I just really love this line. And it was just such a basic line.
Out of all the things you've said in these two episodes, out of all the things you said, that's the most fair one.
that's not a line to write home
That's not
about.
even a critique on the book. That's a critique on me as a person.
No, that's critique. Yeah, that's not on the book.
And I will take
your
that.
fault.
Here's the thing. That's what you have to do. Whenever it's a book that I love so much, don't attack the book. Attack me. Okay? That's how you can get me on your side. Because the book is flawless. I am the flawed one. That was not maybe the line to stick out. But then part 4 is where the trap happens, where the girl, they're in the invasion of Mars. Trap happens. He's in the mud, gets out of the mud, gets Ragnar out. You have Darrow they get out, attack a bunch of people. Darrow says yeet, goes straight for the Sovereign's ship. That's where we get the Fitchner's Ares reveal. So much more happens in there, but then the aftermath and the amazing plot twist ending. Also, I can't forget him going back home. Him going back home and seeing the difference and seeing... and telling Mustang, seeing his mother again, seeing Dan, who I will talk about in the Prose section when we get to there. But such a well-trimmed, no-fluff plot where there are so many highs and adrenaline moments, so many plot twists, keeps you guessing. And it has this in common with Game of Thrones, of course. No character is safe except Darrow.
Yeah.
I'm comfortable saying that. So even going into the next book, of course, I got, unfortunately, like I know Darrow... I know things about Darrow in the future, unfortunately, because just the culture around Red Rising is like going, I don't want to say it in case people haven't read on further, but
okay,
I don't want to in case because if you're just
at what book were you spoiled?
And that wasn't spoiled a specific book. I just know he lives up to a certain point. You know what I mean?
Gotcha.
So, and it doesn't distract that much because every other character, I have no clue and no one's safe. And I assume in this case,
also it's a single POV story.
Exactly. So I'm pretty comfortable he's safe, but no one else is safe. Yeah. I can safely say I have no idea where any of these other characters are going to end up, and that is thrilling to watch. To read. We will watch it when it becomes adapted, but just perfection. That's all I got to say.
Yeah, I loved it.
Amazing.
9 out of 10.
I hate you. And the focus on the plot twist at the end. What was your reaction to that?
Oh, incredible shock. It made sense by the end of it, but it just cemented Jackal as just such a great, intimidating villain. The fact that he knows Darrow's caught, he's now like that. It's the darkest hour moment. It's your Empire Strikes Back. It just being lowered, kind of like how in Star Wars Han's lowered into carbonite and all that. I got the reference. I thought it worked really well.
Yeah, my notes on it, in just reviewing, were, are you explicitive kidding me? That like what I write after I read stuff just to get my reaction. I'll type down my thoughts just to be like this is how I felt in the moment. So that's how I felt in the moment.
Your brain is an odd place. I wouldn't want to be there.
Nope, got nothing. Okay. It is an odd place. Couldn't think of anything there either. So Nero Augustus dies. Lorne dies. Victor dies. Fitchner dies. 4 humongous deaths. Humongous deaths. And the most impactful, I told you how much I love Victor's death. Every single one is impactful because Nero Augustus, him no longer being the antagonist, the bad guy. Jackal's the bad guy, emphasizes the Jackal. Lorne's death. I'm going to ignore that little moan you made.
I don't, Augustus was never like the big villain. I always kind of saw it. So his death is not as impactful for me. It's kind of like, yeah, of course. He's like the low boss. He's not even as intimidating as the Jackal. So it just wasn't that big of a death.
When the villain gets killed by the bigger villain, though, it's like,
yeah, it's the classic.
It's great.
I love that trope. It's a fun one.
Lorne dying killed me.
Really?
It killed me.
Oh.
What do you mean, oh?
I just wasn't as emotionally attached to Lorne specifically.
What attached me even more, even especially in hindsight, is thinking of the message of the book and just what Darrow and Lorne's message was with Tactus, with the Jackal, and the irredeemability. And Lorne was right in a way, and that got him killed. It was agreeing with Darrow, pretty much got him killed. And again, this is how I'm looking into the book. And also, Darrow forcing Lorne's hand. Darrow forcing Lorne out of that dream of just living out with his grandchildren on Europa. That's Darrow's fault.
Yeah.
That is on Darrow. Lorne is dead now. And I don't know exactly if they killed all his grandchildren in front of him, but the end scene was just brutal. But Lorne being dead killed. Oh, I was so pissed in a good way. It's, you know, when you read those, you watch that stuff. You watch a killer ending, like No Country for Old Men, the ending there. When you see an ending like No Country for Old Men, an ending like this, that pisses you off in a great way. I mean the highest of compliments to No Country for Old Men, the highest of compliments to this, of you had the cojones. This is marvelous. Thank you for making me feel. You know, I feel like in Into the Spider-Verse, where the Noir character is like, sometimes I light a match just so I can, it comes to my finger and I feel things. Or you remember what was that line? I said it horribly.
Cage.
Yeah.
Sometimes I light a match and let it burn down to my fingertips just to feel something.
Yeah, that was great. But man, it's amazing. Victra's death, I've talked enough about why I love Victra. She's such a small, important character. Fitchner, Ares dying was the most even though Nero Augustus probably the most expected of the deaths, maybe even Victra. Lorne was like, no way. Lorne had so much you could have done in the next books. I was so looking forward to seeing Lorne again. But to top all those deaths, Fitchner, Ares' death was the most out of left field stunning to me. Because we just found out he was with the Sons of Ares. We just found out. He had so much. I wanted to explore so much with this character. And we found out about his past, of course. But he was, and why this hurts even more is Darrow feels like he's on ground zero. He's in the depths of hell coming into next book. He's captured. And on top of being captured, it seemed like things were on the up and up. He had the Sons of Ares on his side. He had this network going for him. That is gone. His head is chopped. You are done. How do you get out of this? And to top that off, while we're still in plot, right? Oh my God.
We do need to go into the other two.
Strap in for we're keeping going on this episode. So on top of that, an amazing part. Can you remind me where I was? I was with you're at
the darkest moment. He did have the Sons of Ares, but now he's known as a Red.
Yeah. How was he going to get out of that? And there was a similar moment as well where I just went, no way. I know Darrow lives in this way. No way he gets out of this moment was, when he went onto the ship and alone with the grenade. Grenade gets kicked out. Aj is there. Sovereign's there. Hey, Fitchner, kill him. That's the whole thing. I'm just like, how does he escape this? And how does it make sense? And of course, the Fitchner Ares reveal. This is another one of those moments. I'm just like, how? These odds are impossible. But Darrow will do it. Let's go, Darrow. So, here's my final note on the plot.
Okay.
By the way, when we review Wheel of Time, I'll just shut up. I will sit in the corner.
I will feel no guilt stretching that out to 2 hours.
I will just have my legs curled.
Thing is, I think you're going to be very positive.
Did you have him on sad this whole time?
Yes.
You son of a bitch. you evildoer. We are smiling.
You're going to be. I think you're going to be with me on book 2.
Great hunt for Wheel of Time.
Yeah, you're going to be. You're not going to be as excited as me. Because
similar
I'm
to this situation.
Yes, but I think you're going to be far more with me on it.
Awesome.
Yeah.
The last note on the plot for this book is the last note that I wrote down was, of course I'm reading on, thank God Almighty that Severo, Mustang, and Ragnar are alive, that they weren't there. I was just thinking, okay, so many great characters just died. Thank the Lords. We got Severo. Thank you, Mustang. Thank you, and Mustang's gonna be so fascinating in Morningstar. I can't wait. Yeah. And thank you, Ragnar, because if they touch my Ragnar, and thank God, thank you that the Telemanuses. I should just thank Pierce Brown probably because he wrote it, but thank you, Pierce Brown, that Telemanus is still alive as well. Cavax and Draxo. Wow. By the way, if you don't realize this is the only book I've ever given a 10 out of 10 to ever.
Not even Lord of the Rings.
Oh no, it's Lord of the Rings is the default 10 out of 10. We don't even discuss it. It's like the GOAT. It's like that's assumed. Lord of the Rings is assumed, you know. You can't, it's an unrateable series.
Sure.
All right. Dialogue Prose, what did you give it out of 10?
I gave it a 7 out of 10.
I understand why.
Significant remember, Red Rising I gave a 5.5.
I understand.
I think it was a significant step up in writing. So Pierce Brown definitely improved in his second book. Really enjoyed it.
This we could use to show the rest of Kyle's nice little passages he read for us. So he already read my 2 favorite parts of the book, which were the Cassius versus Darrow scene he read and the meeting his mother scene. Now, I also want to go back to, this is a scene where Darrow goes back to Lycos and he sees, do you remember Dan from when you read it?
The uncle?
No, not the uncle. That was Uncle Nero. Dan is one of the Greys that used to be above, and he was the tiny little boss that, you know, when you go back to the Shire at the end and it's just you went on this whole adventure. Now you're back. Everything looks different. So this is Dan, the little Grey, who's looking at Darrow now, and this is Darrow's new perspective of this Grey. This is what this passage is. Here you go, Kyle.
Is something the matter? He asks. You're right, I say. His beady eyes scurry back and forth between his best grays, searching for signs of the inequity I noticed. It disgusts me how desperate he is to please me. This man stole from my family. He had me whipped, watched Io be killed, hanged my father. He's not wicked. He's just pathetic in his greed. I'm right about what? He asks, blinking at me. That it is impossible to find refined company in places like this. My eyes fall so heavily on him, I fear he might burst out crying. Seeing Dan, does nothing but fill me with a distant strangeness. I wanted them to be terrible, hideous monsters, but they aren't. They are petty men who ruin lives and don't even notice. How many others are like them? The banality of evil.
Really fascinating how you look at these, he almost shows pity on them. He's sad. It's just sad. Rather than Dan, he's seen so much evil now and he's seen so much of the world. He comes back and sees Dan as this pathetic pleaser, sycophant. Just really great perspective. And I'll play this as well since, you know, we had the lovely Kyle, the Kyle Derrick himself also read this off. This is Ragnar's. I don't think we talked about Ragnar enough. So this will do Ragnar justice, where it's Ragnar's introduction scene. You know, when you see that bold text for the first time and he's killing his way to get to Darrow. He's killing a way to get to Darrow and, you know, swear fealty to the new Peerless Guard. This is that scene right there. Here we go. Kyle, take it away.
Then one of the blue gasps, and we glance back at the HC monitor to see the cameras in the halls outside the bridge door relaying a scene of horror. He runs at them from behind as they prepare to make entry into the bridge. An obsidian, but larger than I've ever seen. But it's not just his size. It's how he moves, a dread creature stitched from shadow and muscle and armor, flowing, not running, perverse, like looking at a blade or a weapon made of flesh. This is a creature that dogs would flee, that cats would hiss at, one that should never exist on any level above the first tier of hell. He smashes into the kill squad from behind, with 2 pulsing white ion blades that extend out of his armor 3 feet from his hands. The grays he simply runs through, crushing them into the walls with his shoulders, splintering their bones. Then he starts the real killing. It's so savage I have to look away. The heat drill continues, melting the door of its own accord, and in its center forms a hole. Through it I can see men and women dying. Blood sizzles on the overhead metal. When the stained is done, he's bleeding from a dozen wounds, and there's only 1 gold left. She stabs him with a razor, piercing his dark armor through the breastplate. He twists his body, locking the blade in, and then clutching it when she lets the blade relax into a whip. Then he grabs her helmet, her golden armor glittering under the hall's lights. She tries to escape, tries to scramble away, but like a lion with a hyena in its jaws, he needs simply squeeze.
Oh my God.
When she is gone, he lays her gently on the ground, tender, now that he's brought her a good death. Severo involuntarily steps back from the door. Mother mercy. The stained stands on the other side, the door between us slowly melting from the center. When the hole in the door is the size of a torso, he removes his helmet. A hairless, pale face stares at me, eyes black, wind-weathered cheeks armored with calluses like the hide of a rhinoceros, head bald except for a meter-long white shock of hair that hangs to his mid-back. We lock eyes, and he addresses me. Godchild Andromedus, I am Ragnar Valaris, the stained firstborn of my mother, alias Snow Sparrow, of the Valkyrie spires north of the Dragon Spine, south of the Fallen City, where the winged horror flies, brother of Sephi the Quiet, breaker of Tanos, which once stood by the water, and I make you an offering of stains. Quite the introduction there.
I'm not going to lie. I had to send that to him because he sounds like Ragnar himself. That voice he did for Ragnar.
Yeah, that's a good voice.
The best thing
Ragnar,
that anyone
especially.
could do, because Kyle's helping us out big time. If anyone works at a voice, anything, like if you do voice performance or you need somebody, reach out to Kyle. Don't take too much of his time. We still want to use him while while we can. So amazing intro there. And last piece, since we're into politics.
The dialogue in prose.
The dialogue in prose. I was thinking politics and
You're
prose.
just thinking
the
politics
place where,
and prose. Oh, yeah.
Which,
I
by the
get
way,
you.
again, we're going to be at Pierce Brown. Politics and Prose is the store he'll be at. We're going to be there July 28th. And so this is the last piece I wanted to show, a more basic part. This is not a standout portion. It's Pliny's character introduction and how Pliny is described. Just to show parts of the prose that I love so much. This is Pliny's introduction.
Okay.
Pliny, slender as a salamander, with skin as smooth as pinks. The politico is no peerless scard, never even went to the institute. His glittering eyes peer out from eyelashes that would put a peacock plumage to shame. Muted lipstick coats his thin lips. His hair is coiled and scented. His body thin, but muscular in a pleasing but utterly facile way beneath a too-tight embroidered silk tunic. A child could beat the living hell out of this beautiful kitten of a man. Yet he's ended families with a rumor here, a joke there. His power is a different breed, where I am kinetic energy. He is potential.
Fascinating description. And I will have to, for the rest of my days, study how he writes. Because it's the most gripping thing to me, and I there's not much else to say here other than I love it.
It's your
you like it. It's just my thing, and the emphasis on that is a small description. What he's able to do with analogies and examples and the visuals. I can't wrap my. I'm gonna have to study his prose.
My favorite part of that was the
Kinetic.
kitten of a man.
Oh, kitten of a man, yeah.
I liked that.
Just so many great visuals, and you understand exactly what he's going for. Pierce Brown, props to you. Want to go into world building?
Yeah.
World building magic. What'd you rate it out of 10?
I gave it a 7.75 out of 10.
Really good.
Very
Okay.
good.
Want to ask me?
Oh, did you give it probably, an 8 out of 10, maybe?
Nope.
9?
Nope.
9.5.
No. I give it a 10, actually.
Oh, wow.
Right? So, why did you like it so much?
Well, I really liked it because of the exploration, of course, of... I think the best part of it was the moon.
Luna
was the best exploration of the world and how the different hierarchies work together, and you got far more of an explanation of how they went to colonize Mars and how you went from Earth to the rest of the solar system.
Fascinating.
Loved all that. So that the culture, the locations all make sense where they are. So I really liked that.
So the Luna part stuck out to you the most. Mm-hmm. I have in my notes here, that was my second note, the Luna description, the Luna slums, understanding how the classes work together. I have a list of just how beautiful this world and magic, I shouldn't say magic system, this is just world in this case.
Technology.
Sci-fi technology, yeah. Magic is replaced with technology and sci-fi. So firstly, I want to mention the language. The language of, we understood from Red Rising how the Golds talk differently. And it was a really nice insight to see, okay, it's rare for me to read a book where the language is emphasized so much, where it's meant to be a point of the different classes. For example, if you're looking at other fantasy worlds, mm-hmm. it's usually like a sub thing. So, there's a little accent here or something there. But we had from the previous book, the Golds were described as having this different accent. And they would roll their R's. It was put in the description when he was being carved. This book, I like how it built on that, where the Blues, they talk slower, except for people like the Obsidians. They don't laugh, and they're bald. And I was just thinking of you when that was described. That's all. I was like, oh, so Richard's a Blue. And they also share everything with each other. The Greys do laugh. It just explained the dynamics between the different classes of, okay, Blues, they're slow to talk. They're the astro navigators. Right. Okay, I can picture that. The Greys are more your like foot soldier, kind of the dirty work. That all makes sense to me. And going into the locations, Luna, of course, Europa, and how Europa was described, amazing. And more so into what you were saying about learning about Earth. I love little snippets of when we get Earth lore in futuristic worlds of what happened to America, what happened to Europe. So one thing that happened is that India, the Indian Empire, was one of the last to stand against the Golds of Earth. And I was just, that's so neat. Just that, okay, what happened in this world? Now you're asking questions. Oh, so India was the last. Interesting. Yeah. Good job, India. And then we've got the next thing is that, the Golds actually implant pain devices in pinks to comply. Oh, wow. That's bad. Just emphasizing that point. The Scorpion Truth game also revealed some really interesting world building things. I love how it stays consistent. Of course, it stays consistent with Darrow's heartbeat being 29 beats per second because of the pit viper where he was bitten in before the story started. And
remind me of what was the significance of that particularly?
Scorpion?
I know, because I'm trying to remember because his heartbeat was
29.
Like,
so if his heartbeat raised, then it would show he's lying. You know how lie detectors work, right?
Yeah, no, generally. But what was? Okay, never mind.
Well, it's a question about why was the Scorpion scene happening between the Sovereign and Darrow?
Yeah, I'm trying to remember what was revealed particularly from that. I'm trying to remember.
So the reveal from that was the Sovereign was testing to see if she could trust Darrow, because at first she was looking to get Darrow on her side from Augustus. Yeah. Like, hey, she's paying off. Darrow's powerful. Let me get you on my side. And so she was doing that to test if he was trustworthy, and she's never lost the game. So the questions they were asking back and forth, like, for example, we found out Darrow was asking some questions. We found out there's 132,689 Peerless Guard for every 40 million golds. Like, have an exact number to it. Interesting. The plot point that was necessary is the last question that Darrow asked the Sovereign was your plan to kill Nero de Augustus at the gala? Anyways, were you about to kill him and the whole family there? When Mustang was in the room, remember? So Mustang was in the room, asked, was that your plan? And she says, no, it wasn't my plan. The Scorpion goes to bite, that she's lying, but Fitchner, Ares saves her, cuts the Scorpion before it can, but shows that she was planning to do that, and that's where Mustang is then compelled to go, okay, I was trying to play her the whole time and play nice guy to get her to get my family safe, but now behind my back she was trying to kill my family. That's where she takes the grandson, and she's like, hey, yeah, this was a whole facade, Darrow. Let's go. That was the relevance of that scene. What did
Darrow reveal?
Darrow revealed, so he was nervous that he was going to reveal, like, oh, what if she asked me or if I read or whatnot. I believe it was. Oh shoot! Good question. It didn't reveal anything that was going to get. It's like by the end, she trusted him enough to go send him to a room. I believe it was brief things like, why did you fight Cassius so bad? Like, what's your motive there? And he gave something that was true or something along the lines of like, hey, pure, like whatever, not the deep reason, but the surface level reason. Mm-hmm. So it was like her fishing for that and her fishing for, do you want me dead? A question like that his goal isn't like, his goal isn't that I can't remember the exact phrasing, so I'm sorry, but it's not that he wants her dead or something like he doesn't want her dead. He wants her out of power. Yeah, something like that. He wants the uprising, but things that didn't reveal his true motives. Okay. So it was fishing that suspensing line, and what the real point of that was to reveal to Mustang the Sovereign was actually doing. So that was that scene. Mm-hmm. But in that scene, we found out. So Darrow, I remember more of the questions Darrow asked. Like Darrow asked her, where are the locations of there's these powerful, almost nuclear, like just fast, like far off weapons. There's 3 locations where they are, and he found out the exact locations because she had to say the truth. So we found out stuff like that, and that scene alone, we went too deep into that scene. So other world building things, this is, I think, even more fascinating than the Luna stuff. I love the Luna stuff, but the Obsidians, the world building with the Obsidians in this was perfect, where we found out about the Obsidian Dark Revolt. And that was where the Obsidians were the closest race to ever getting the Golds out of power. They were that close, which makes sense. They're huge. It's like, why haven't? Well, that's what happened. They ended up defeating the Golds, sending them to the poles of the planets, and making it look like the Golds are gods by literally producing famines and saving them and pushing Norse mythology and making their culture to the point where they only touch 3 times. They touch in death, in love, and in sex, something like that. That's it. They won't touch otherwise. They just have these cultural things that are constructed from the gold to make them subservient and to make sure they look at them as gods. They can't even touch razors. They can't do it. They're not allowed because we are gods to you. That's why you devote your entire lives to us. And I found that fascinating. And then on top of that, the alien, and this is a side thing that's really small, but I loved it. The alien and robot conversation with Nero Augustus, how he really feared robots, that he thought robots were going to be the next thing, but showing in the sci-fi world why it wasn't the next thing, like what they did to just a neat little combo of, it's a sci-fi world, there's robots everywhere, why aren't there robots here? Oh, they made sure not to because that was a fear in the society. So it's cool to bring up. You have your things like the Rip Wings and Leechcraft, which I love the space battles. They're not diving, incorporated. So it sounded like
they're not explored.
Explored. That's a good one.
Yeah.
So they're not deeply explored, but you have the Rip Wings that rip the ships open. The Leechcraft come in, and you can visualize it, and that's how space battles happen. Cool.
It's the Roman way of doing space battles.
It's awesome.
It's the Roman way of doing naval battles.
Naval. Oh, I see.
You know how Romans were like famously awful at ships.
So you just go and march with troops. Just get in there.
We have great infantry, so let's turn this naval battle into an infantry. And so they just get in these boats, ram it.
Yeah.
Throw their bridge on and then board and then beat them that way.
Just hit them with stick. Telemantises, Kravik stuck. So yeah.
So that's the whole thing with the Golds. Their whole thing is, instead of actually fighting with cannons and all that, which they still do, the whole thing of
get in there.
Craft.
Yeah.
So
it makes so much sense with their society and their culture. Yeah. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Love your 7.75. Makes so much sense. So then even the small touch as well, where the razors are now kind of wrapped around your arms.
Yeah.
That new style was created by Darrow, and Lauren's like, I hate how you youngsters do that now. Why'd you start that? Or it's because Darrow's. I love how Darrow's also a hero to the Sovereign's grandchild.
Yeah, that's
because
funny.
Yeah, he sees him like, oh, that's the guy that kicks everybody's ass. I love that guy. And then ends up capturing him and all that stuff in the plot. Another world building part where Fitch, again, why the world building is so perfect in this is that all of it fits so well with the plot. The plot never pauses for the world, but you explore the entire world. Blows my mind how this is done. So even with Fitchner's motivation, why did he start this entire terrorist group? Well, I'll tell you why. Here's his actual story. My wife is a red. We had to go to a carver. This happened when you have these different races who literally cannot genetically breed with each other. We had to go to a carver. And that's how we have Severo. They found out. Holy, that's where this all started. So it gives you an insight into this is happening probably all over the universe. And then lastly, this is the last part of world building. I'll stop bugging you, and we can let you all, if you're listening to this in the morning, let you get on with your day. At night, let you get a nice little rest. Or maybe we should stick around and talk about our lives. This sealed the deal for the 10 out of 10 for me. I already love the world building and everything, but going back to Lycos, one, getting the new perspective that Darrow had of looking at everything. Fascinating. Two, learning what the Greys do and how they keep the Reds in line and how they make them slaves, where they have a literal pheromone that circulates to make the Reds breed more. I'm just thinking as an author, maybe that's not the most revolutionary thing, but I'm just thinking it makes sense. So like they need more workers, and the pheromone, and it works with the understanding of sci-fi and the world of like of course that exists in this kind of world, and the suspension of disbelief, and
it's honestly not a far step from what casinos currently do.
Yes, and that's what makes you think of.
They don't pump in pheromones to make you breed, but they do pump in like perfume and different pheromones, like get you to release inhibition, to make you feel like more at home,
serve
and
you alcohol, of course.
All that, yeah.
Shut down. There's no natural light.
There's no clocks.
No clocks. Yeah. So it works right off that casino thing, and it just makes so much sense. And then how Dan the Gray is explaining to him that they're following all of the Department of Energy's Guide to Mine Management, that book, where it's docking rations, cracking down on enforcement of legal violations, discrediting leading thought makers, and luring them into liaisons of homosexuality. Also, recommended scenarios from the On Diffusing Rebellion book, where, we've introduced plague and cures, rebellion and suppression, natural disaster, pit viper migration, and even considered the extraplanetary government upheaval package, where we can say terraforming is complete and people will be here in 10 years. Just the understanding of this is how the Reds are being lied to, so you see the perspective of society from the Reds. You understand the Obsidians. You get the Blues and their astronomics. I can't even say the words right. You understand the Golds deeply. The cultures of this world, perfect. The tech, I love how it's done and it's used in the battles. I can't complain. This is a 10 out of 10 book. I love it. I want to hold it.
So you heard it here first. The years and years of Tolkien writing out the different languages for his different groups of people, and doing a whole history book to basically back up his world, and all the different races, languages, poems, songs, and the complete written down history. That world building is the same as Pierce Brown's Golden Sun. The exact same. Tolkien and Pierce Brown, same world building, exact same.
You know what my response is to that. You already know.
Yeah.
And here is my response to that, okay? Tolkien, you're also perfect, and the world building, of course, is perfect in there. When I'm rating something out of 10, by the way, this is also a 10. When I'm rating something out of 10, it's the intent of what they're going for, and all the I can't judge this the same I would judge a Lord of the Rings book. I just can't. They do effectively what each ought to do perfectly. Tolkien's Lord of the Rings perfectly does his world for everything it ought to do, especially the language and how he was influenced by Beowulf and Anglo-Saxon culture, and him being a learner of languages, does it perfectly. Pierce Brown, what he does with the modern sci-fi and keeping you invested, he's plot, character-focused, and centric, and creates this interesting cultural world around it. I gotta say, both accomplish exactly what they're going for. It's just like this. I've used different comparisons, but I'll say it just like this. I could have two favorite movies, right? I could have the movie.
No.
Okay.
What's your favorite?
Lord of the Rings. No, Lord of the Rings. I could have two, they're my 10. These movies are like my 9.75, my 9.8, my 10 out of 10, right? Lord of the Rings is that for me. Okay, I'll use these two examples. Mad Max Fury Road. This adrenaline-filled, badass, amazing film where the cinematography is beautiful. It's not like you think at the end of the day, I wonder what Mad Max Fury Road was trying to teach me. Let me get pensive about this, right? It's just fun. It's entertaining. And then you have your Schindler's List.
Mm-hmm.
Schindler's List, also a damn near perfect film, where you're not sitting there going, I'm adrenaline filled, unless you're Richard and you're a skinhead. But when you're watching Schindler's List, you are going, I am floored, I'm crying, I'm emotional. Both are going for completely different things and do it to near perfection. So that is why Golden Son is a 10 out of 10. And that's why I don't take your little bullying, you little glasses wearing. I also wear glasses, but not right now.
Pierce Brown. I just think Hyperion does a better world building. My apology. Thing is, I don't even think Pierce Brown could be really offended. I bet he loves Hyperion, and he's like, "Hey, that's not a bad comparison. Hey, Hyperion's fantastic world building." So,
look, here's the thing: Pierce Brown. I'm sure he's a humble man, so I have to say it's a 10 for him. Okay, he might say, "Nah, my book's all right." He knows. He knows he has to be humble. He has to be respectful. But to get into this with Tolkien as well, the interesting thing we'll end the podcast on is, did you read the acknowledgements at the end of the book? The acknowledgement at the end of the book, this is what Pierce Brown says. His book's over. He says, my favorite line from Lord of the Rings comes when Frodo has all but given up his quest and Samwise says to him, come, Mr. Frodo, I can't carry it for you, but I can carry you. Writing is a lonely quest at times. You lose the path, you take the mountain pass only to realize you've made a mistake and must double back through a more treacherous route. Often, there's no wizard to guide you, no signpost except those you conjure. Everything is up to you, and that can be daunting, at least to me. But though my friends and family may not be able to guide the story, they carry me with their love and friendship, and I'm lucky for it. And then he goes on to thank everybody, of course. But what a touching acknowledgement at the end, respecting the GOAT Tolkien. Of course, Tolkien can be unmatched, but looking at these different things, I love them in their own different ways. Thank you, Pierce Brown. Richard, thank you for letting me talk again so much in this podcast.
I really hope you can find a friend like that. Bye, everyone.
Dr. Doofenshmirtz Evil Incorporated.